Hey everybody, back in the chess video. Today is going to be a good illustrative game showing how controlling the center with pawns, coordinated pawn pushes, and restricting your opponent's pieces with pawns can completely change the tide of how a game goes. So for this game, I'm playing as black. Opponent starts e4. I respond with the Sicilian c5, knight f3, knight c6, and then the kind of fork in the road move is going to be bishop b5. The Rossolimo is what this is called. Really, black has plenty of choices here. e4, knight f6, e6, d6 are all perfectly reasonable moves. I've recently been trying out knight d4. So as we proceed, knight d4, a lot of times white will take back with the pawn, and then this bishop is really just not doing much here. A lot of times, let's just say you go knight out, they might castle, you can go d6, and they may look to strike in the center, they may look to trade off this light squared bishop for the knight and have better control of these two squares. But we go along, they do trade off this knight. You take back. A tricky move you can keep in mind as black is if white makes the mistake of locking up the center with d3 too early, then they just leave this bishop hanging. You will see this at ratings from 2000 and below. I do see this occasionally up to 2000. So just keep in mind of this little trap of if they take in the center and then d3 too early, you can win a bishop. Here, I respond with, I believe I play e5. Oh no, yeah, castles, e5. So white castles, e5. This light squared bishop can retreat here, may retreat here, eventually looking to land on this square. It doesn't have much prospects on this diagonal because the center is probably staying closed for the game. This knight oftentimes will maneuver here or maneuver here. Dark squared bishop tends to come out to try to pin this knight. So those are kind of moves that you'll see coming. Opponent plays c3, which is a reasonable move, but nothing too crazy. You don't want to take because that just aids their development. I respond with bishop out. If takes, I keep the center closed by taking back with the bishop. And this bishop pawn structure in the center really isn't going to be able to be messed with too much. A lot of times black looks to push f4 in the Rossolimo, but I was looking to keep the center closed to try to limit movement of the dark squared bishop and the knight, and keep this bishop kind of not doing too much. So I was looking to keep the center closed. I take back with the bishop, knight out. Knight can come here, but doesn't really have too much prospects. I can go knight f6 and trade off that knight. So I go knight f6, looking to just, if knight goes there, I just take, and then this pawn is pretty hard to protect as white. Here, black is going to be looking to get this bishop developed. Knight f6 is an inaccuracy, so it likes a6, maybe kicking this bishop back. Let's see what it thinks. Yeah, knight f6 there. And 3, then maybe castles. d6 supporting the center. Probably bishop out. Oh, knight d5. Okay, knight d5. If I was in this scenario, I probably would just take. And then I'm imagining, yeah, bishop takes, castles. Still about even, but this looks like what the engine is suggesting. So I go knight f6. It's an inaccuracy. Why is it an inaccuracy? Let's take a look. Because knight e2. And then I'm imagining I retreat my bishop. And queen b6. Takes. See what else it's suggesting. And then here, castles. Assuming bishop there. Oh, interesting. Okay. And then queen takes b2. I probably wouldn't find this in a game because it looks to be just a bit too greedy. A bit too greedy. Maybe bishop there. Takes a4. Oh, looking at that pawn. Or actually looking at this pawn. Okay. So d3 is played. Back to the game. d3 is played. I castle. Still an even game. Bishop g5, pinning the knight. I look to primarily support in the center. If this knight hops in, I'm really not too worried since this knight defended. I can kick the bishop out pretty quickly. So I play a6 first. So h6. So h6, kicking the bishop back. a6 I think is an inaccuracy. Oh, I thought it was an accuracy. Okay. All right, it's actually a good move. So getting this bishop back. Looking to maybe try to force it to the center and exchange it, but you do have to play g5 to get this pin out of the way first before you can exchange it. 5. Bishop d5, obviously you just move the rook out of the way. So it's really about even. This is all just kind of developing moves. I'm going to look to play d4, get this bishop out, and probably trade off this light squared bishop after I play g5 and kick this bishop away. Queen out is a bit early. There's really not too much of a role for the queen here. If bishop takes, queen takes, bishop takes, queen takes, queen takes, pawn takes, you ruined this pawn structure, but this supports e5. You don't have anything that's really going to be attacking it, and there's really just not much prospects. This bishop really isn't doing anything on this diagonal, especially with the queen and bishop gone, so there's not really any checkmating attacks. This knight is pretty weak, and it can get kicked out pretty easily, and then this pawn is lost. So really just not a good queen move. Black is now better at minus 1.6, but not really sure what he was thinking if he was looking to kind of trade off and ruin my pawn structure, because there was a bit more pressing long-term issues on the queen side that he had to deal with. So I kick the bishop away with g6. Eventually, I'm going to look to push d5. The bishop is going to retreat. It just has simply nowhere else to go. Not d5, d6. Now here, this queen being so offsides, you have to watch out for your queen getting trapped if you're in a really if you're in a position where there's not a ton of space to move around, like with this locked center, and a lot of other pieces are on the board, kind of restricting movement of the queen when it comes out too early. So bishop pinning the queen, not pinning the queen, bishop threatening the queen is definitely something that white has to keep an eye on. White's going to want to just retreat the queen because it really has no business here. There's no attack coming here. There's no checkmating threats. There's nothing that there's no business this queen has on f3. So queen, he sees that, queen retreats to queen e2. Not a good move because it is still going to be falling victim to this knight getting bullied out of here. So really should have come, queen should have come all the way back. And then if I kick that knight away, black is still winning, but at least this knight may be coming here in the future. This knight is not going all the way back to the back rank. So black is better, but black is better no matter what the queen does, but going all the way back would have been better. Going here, knight has no choice but to come all the way back to the back rank. So queen e2, I play a5, preparing b4. It's a miss because b4 straight away is fine. If you come here, You can go, I believe, bishop. I got to take here, here, and bishop here. Black is getting to be in a very cramped position. So we need to... Knight comes back is best, but this bishop has nothing going on. This bishop is staring at nothing. This knight has no prospects. So you can see how pushing pieces back, controlling the center with pawns. This bishop is helping tie down the center as well, and having just restricted pieces on the opposing. So restricting the pieces for the opposing side just completely swings the game. It's minus 3.3 right now because this knight is doing nothing. These rooks aren't connected. There's no pawn breaks for white that are coming. This bishop's not doing anything. So 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces are just completely out of the game. And this light squared bishop is going to get traded off pretty quick. And black is going to be able to push down the board, trade off pieces, and create a passed pawn. So all the way at, even just at move 16, white is so restricted that they're in a losing position. So I didn't capitalize on that by playing b4 first. I played a5 to prepare b4, and it's still winning, but just not as well as it could have been. So opponent plays h4. It's an inaccuracy. Engine likes queen d2, just getting this escape square for the knight ready, but or actually, maybe not escape square. It likes here, and then I'm assuming knight takes, but then you can just come bishop e6. Likes b4, but what about bishop e6? Probably a mistake. Oh, it's a good move. Okay. And then look, I would be looking to trade this off in the center if I was playing if I saw this in a game. But back to the game. H4 is played. It's an inaccuracy because you're still going to be pushing this knight away. Knight's either going to come to the back of the side of the board on a4 and have nothing going on, or knight's going to retreat all the way back to the back rank and have nothing going on. So this is a bit of a waste of a move. He's trying to strike and open things up for this dark squared bishop, or trying to create some threats on the king side, but there's really nothing going on. There's no pieces on the king side. This dark squared bishop isn't going anywhere. This queen's not coming anywhere. So it's a really waste of a move. I do just continue to try to kick the knight back. This is a weak pawn on b2 that I'm eyeing. So that is my thinking as I'm playing this move. Opponent's trying to strike back, but it's too little too late. Knight d1, because it had nowhere else to go, really. Bishop here, because if this takes, or rather, bishop here, trying to get the queen just in an even worse position, because it's very restricted. This knight's restricted. These rooks are restricted. Just trying to further develop my pieces and restrict the opposing side. So it's -3 already because white has just nowhere to go. This bishop's not doing anything. This bishop's definitely not doing anything. This knight is all the way back. These rooks are not connected. You can see how quickly pushing these pawns in this scenario was not so much of a risk because white had really no option but to do retreating moves. There was no trading off a piece for a pawn because it would have been much worse had they done that. So nothing but retreating moves in this position. Knight takes, trading off the only piece that was doing anything. My knight was controlling some good light squares, but with this bishop out, I can control those light squares just the same. So trading off a okay knight for really the best piece in the position for white was the white's bishop. So trading off that. So just taking pause here. Rooks are not connected. Knight on the back rank isn't going anywhere. Weak pawn on b5. Bishop that is staring at nothing. queen that is also staring at nothing. So white is pretty cramped. They're restricted. Black has much better control over the center with their pawns. The center is not opening up anytime soon. In a game, I'd be looking to push f5, f4, and restrict this bishop even more. And then eventually bring my queen out, maybe, I don't know, here, and push on this side to capture some of these pawns. So f5, h takes g4. Here, this is, I don't know if it's the best move, so it's a good move, but really, you take back with the queen trade, and you push here. This bishop's never getting out. This knight is never getting out. This d3 pawn is going to be weak. This d5 pawn is weak. These pawns are b2 is still weak. So white is in a really bad position. They wasted too much time. They had poor piece coordination and ended up getting just pushed so far back in their position by having to deal with this queen that came out too early and then restricted a lot of their pieces that they're just in such a worse position. So queen takes g5. Queen takes g5 check, takes back to the pawn. Here, black is much better. This knight is not getting out anytime soon. What I'm going to do is push f4, swing this bishop around, capture this pawn. I'm taking b5 soon. There's really not much prospects for white. So rook b1's an inaccuracy because f4 is still coming. Black has no option but to retreat this bishop. Bishop h2. Bishop f5. Just coming to capture this pawn. Rook e1, I think maybe looking to trade this knight. Takes, and then capturing with the rook, protecting this pawn. But there's really not much to it. Too little, too late. Bishop takes. This rook has to retreat. So rook c1 is also a move, but then I just slide my rook here and kind of force a trade, or force it to retreat back to the corner. Rook b to c8. Opponent sees that I'm either forcing the trade or you're going back to the corner, and then I'm infiltrating with these rooks, and I'm capturing all your pawns. Your bishop is not doing anything. Your knight is never getting out, and it's just a lost position. So to start back from the beginning, e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e5, the Rossolimo, knight d4 to the center. This is a book move. It might not be the absolute best move, but it's a move. Knight takes, pawn takes, castles. I lock up the center with e5, c3. I try to secure the center with this dark squared bishop. Knight c3. Knight f6 is an accuracy, but just looking to get my pieces out and get castled. Bishop e5, pinning the knight, but there's really not much of a threat there because I can just push the bishop back pretty quick. This knight can come in, but by that time, I'm pushing the bishop back, trading off in the center, and there's really not much for white to be doing. So one quick tip is when you're being pinned with a bishop, pinning your knight in this scenario, or vice versa, if the light squared bishop is pinning a knight along this diagonal, play h6 or h3, and then you might not have to play g5 or g4 immediately. You can just kind of play h6, and then bishop pulls back in the rights, and then when the time is right, you have g5 or g4 in your pocket, and then you can free up the knight in one move instead of having to play two moves. So you play this move to kick the bishop back, and then whenever you want it, you just need one move to kind of force the bishop back and break the pin. So you can see I just have this just in my pocket when I need it. a6, just kicking the bishop back, expanding more on the queen side. f3. This is a really weakening move because there's no attack coming on this knight. There is nothing this light squared bishop is doing. This knight is not coming. I mean, it could rotate here and try to attack the bishop, but it's really not going to be making any moves anytime. So just waste of a move that restricts other pieces in the white side, because there's just nothing happening here. Eventually, what white could have done is maybe king here, king h1, and pushing in the center, or pushing not in the center, pushing f4. But really, there's getting the queen out was a bad move. Like knight e2. Maybe I just pull the bishop back in this scenario, but you can see it's even, but black's getting to be a little bit better. G5, just when I need it, I'm breaking this pin, and then I'm opening up this knight. Bishop g3, the only moves that make sense. e6, securing the center. Queen e2 is a mistake. This knight would have wanted to come here, but now the only options are here or here once I push b4. So you can see here, just move 16, bishop very restricted, knight very restricted. This bishop is the most active piece, and it's not doing anything. Queen in a weird position, not really helping or hurting it, not really helping anything. Rooks are connected, but they're not doing anything, and they're about to be disconnected by this knight coming back. Waste of a tempo for me with a5. Should have just pushed b4 straight away. h4 is an inaccuracy. You're trying to strike on the king side, create some counterplay, but it's too little too late. There's really too much threats from the black side for this to be really useful at all. Knight d1's a mistake. Bishop g4, threatening the queen. Queen goes d2, really not a ton other squares that it could go to. Taking here the center. The center will be staying locked. These doubled pawns are liabilities. King can come there maybe, but really not much to do. Now, more pressure with pawns, pushing these pawns down the board, getting this bishop in an even worse square. H takes, queen takes. I took back with a queen, looking to trade off queens, and then just be in such a better position that black is going to be restricted and has no option but to trade off all their pieces, and I'll be up pawns in the endgame. Rook b1, kind of ignoring this threat here and not realizing that this pawn you really just can't hold on to. f4, restricting the bishop. Bishop f5, coming to capture this doubled pawn that really can't be protected. And rook b to c8, either asking to force this trade or restricting this rook even more. So this was a good game of restricting your opponent's pieces, and then slowly pushing into their side with pawns, restricting their pieces even more. And this all started from just a bad queen move, allowing me to get a couple tempi on the opponent as I kind of pushed their pieces back into the board, and they had no good squares to go to. I think the opponent was a bit uncoordinated. They didn't know exactly where they wanted to put their pieces, so then they succumbed to me launching a bit of an attack on them. And since they didn't know where they wanted to put their pieces to begin with, they had no option but to retreat their pieces to even worse squares than they were on, and then eventually to a losing game. So name of this game was restricting opponents' pieces with solid, strong pawn structure, and just overwhelming them into an endgame that they had no choice and no options in. All right, we'll see you guys in the next one.